computer. I've hit record, and we can just start going, and I can cut on either end.
Okay, great. So, good afternoon. This is Pastor Sheila Boyce from St. Louis, Missouri, and we are here with Rabbi Brigida Rosenberg and a wonderful guest, Dr. Benjamin Kendi, who we all know in St. Louis so very well. We're so glad that as we discuss topics this afternoon through the My Diversity Circle Real Talk, we will be talking again about how to be an anti-racist, taken from the book by Ibram X. Kendi. We will be talking about ethnicity. So I'd like for you to learn a little bit about President Dr. Benjamin Kendi, who has moved into the Vermont area and left St. Louis. Talk to us a little bit about what you're doing now, please, and share with us some of your comments today.
Well, you know, it's first of all, Pastor Sheila, thank you for being here, and Rabbi Bridget, it's a pleasure. You know, we lived in St. Louis for almost 20 years, and it was the best time of our lives.
Wow.
Great people, remarkable community, a community that you just don't want to be a part of. You want to live it. You want to pay it forward. So got this opportunity to lead a college here in Vermont, in Burlington, Vermont, Champaign College, and college has been around for about 142 years. And I just couldn't resist that opportunity. And some folks told me, well, you know, Benjamin, you got to be crazy to be leading an institution in the midst of COVID. But my response is that isn't that when leadership is best needed in the midst of crisis? And so I'm here. It's getting a little chilly already. We're looking at maybe about 50 degrees tonight. I'm getting ready to go wear my jacket, and I'm the only one wearing jacket around here. Everybody's sort of enjoying this moment. But I'm so happy to be here because I'm at a place that is the safest place when it comes to COVID, perhaps in the world. Our COVID curve is flat. This is a community that's taking care of others and taking care of themselves. And in my institution, we've been really focused on the health and welfare of our faculty, staff, and students. We've tested probably close to 44,000 times over the last 3 to 4 weeks, and we've had one positive. It is a remarkable place that is safe, that it takes care of others, and Bull and I are really excited to be here, and I'm pleased to join your show.
So I know we're going to dive into ethnicity, but as a parent of a college student who is a junior at the University of Maryland, was it difficult to make the decision to open up for this fall?
It was probably the most difficult decision I've ever been involved in, because essentially we wanted to make sure that if we were going to open, that we will create the most safe and a medically safe environment that we could possibly provide. And that included a level of intricacies and planning that we had to get into it. It includes sort of putting in a regimen for testing on a daily basis that allowed our students to come in once a week to be tested. Putting in a code of conduct statement that every student, faculty, and staff had to sign about making sure that we de-densify the dormitories. It wasn't, we could no longer have 2 to a room, it's just now 1 to a room. And in cases where we had quads, we only had 2 in that situation. And then investing particularly in the level of logistics of making sure that we truly had social distancing and the doors opening up by sensor as opposed to us touching it.
Yeah.
All those intricacies were there that we had to put in place. And as a result of doing that and doing it well, we've been able to avert a crisis. And I think the kudos actually, I think, is to the governor of the state, Phil Scott, and also the mayor of Burlington, and of course the medical commissioner for the state of Vermont. These guys are serious, and they've been very collaborative and working with us to make sure that we can create an environment. And that's why today, our rate of infection is really infinitesimal when you think about other parts of the country. And we want to know, and that's why we're testing. I think there are certain parts of the country where they figured, you know what, if they don't test, they don't need to know. And for me, for a father that has a 19-year-old at Washington U, I feel good that Washington University is taking care of business, and I think that gives all our parents a safe of mind and a understanding that they're doing things right.
Right. So many universities, I think, are doing a great job, but it sounds like where you are, the students are also doing a really great job, and the community that you're in is really understanding that this is about individuals thinking about other people. I mean, the way we're going to stop COVID is not just thinking about ourselves, but thinking about everybody that's around us. And I think that this pandemic is really a mind shift for us in so many ways, because we have to stop thinking about ourselves and start thinking about others.
It's almost like the book All In. It's like getting everybody all in is the real tough part of this. I mean, we see how well other communities are doing, and we can do it too. So I'm glad to hear that you are among those who are leading the country and how to do it and do it well. Thank you for those comments. And thank you, Brigida, because you are parents and you wonder, what's going to happen with your family members if things aren't done according to all the rules and regulations. So I'm going to jump right into two definitions, and then we can start talking, because our author tells us that ethnic racism is a powerful collection of racist policies that lead to inequities between racialized ethnic groups and are substantiated by racist ideas about racialized ethnic groups. And to be an ethnic anti-racist is the collection of anti-policies that lead to equity between racialized ethnic groups and are substantiated by anti-racist ideas. And basically what we've been talking about for the past several weeks as we've been going through this book is that you have a choice to be anti-racist, or if you don't choose to be anti-racist, there is no other category except racist. And so one of the things we had to really highlight over and over again, because the author is very clear, you're either supporting racist ideas and thoughts, and therefore there's racist behaviors, or you're not supporting those policies and you're dismantling it. It's not that I don't believe in being a racist, it's that I'm being actively an anti-racist. And so today we are discussing about the color of the skin and those who come to a country like America and find different ethnic groups and how is that racism showing up. So we could talk all day long, but we really want to hear some of your experiences as you came to America, and what was that like, and how many years ago was that experience for you? And thank you for telling us that you're president of a college where you are in Vermont and it's cold. Okay.
Yes, I'm president of a college that's been around for a long time, but it's also a state that has a very few, probably one of the lowest rates of minorities in the United States. But I'm here because I believe that this is a place that embraces others, and that indeed our challenge and our opportunity is to try to welcome others to this state, and because they are a very open and heartwarming place. But Pastor Sheila, I came to the United States a little bit over 40 years ago, and I came from Nigeria, and I arrived. I remember taking off August 23, 1979, to come to the States. And I recall my dad taking us to the airport, my sister Nikki and I, and telling us that our minds were getting ready to be blown away. And he said, look, I want you to be prepared, and I want you all to be open. You're going to learn a lot in the classroom, but you're going to learn even more outside of the classroom. Mm-hmm. And I remember when we got to the airport, he hugged us and he prayed for my sister Nikki and I that we would have the heart and the courage to be able to reach out to other people, to meet them where they are, to meet them halfway. And as he's given this prayer, my mind is going, what courage, what heart, what is this? I'm going to America. And what was going through my mind was this: I have grown up hearing about this remarkable libation they call milkshake, and I had heard about this fantastic food they call hamburgers with everything on it. We didn't know what was on it, but we just knew it had everything on it. And so what was going through my mind was that when I get to JFK Airport, I'm going to request for my milkshake and I'm going to request for my hamburgers with everything on it. And here's my dad praying about courage. And so we got to Texas, to New York City, and then we flew from New York City to Amarillo, Texas, in the heart of West Texas. And I want you to imagine, folks, landing in Amarillo, Texas, and as we were coming out of the airport, I heard this really slow music that I just never heard before. It was a story about lamenting about a long lost relationship, about how I think I can remember the word. It said, I still like you, but I don't love you anymore. And I thought, oh my gosh, it was George Strait. I didn't know at that time. How do you like somebody and not love them anymore? But that's another story and another show when I'll break down my analysis of country music. But then I looked around and I saw people wearing really, really, really tight jeans, and I'm thinking, how did they get into this? That was impossible to be able to finagle yourself into this. And they had on these cowboy hats that I've seen at Western movies in Nigeria, and then they walk up to you. They were so friendly. They said, "How y'all doing?" And I looked to the left, I looked to the right, thinking they weren't talking to me. And so overnight, I came from a place where people looked like me, people talked like me, people spoke my language, and I showed up at a place where I was a minority. And it was mind-boggling on August the 24th, 1979, a day that I would never forget.
Wow. Wow, what a shocker. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was shocking.
How long did you live in Texas?
I fell in love with that place. Can you believe that? I was there for about 3.5 years, and people would walk up to me and say, Benjamin Akande, where the heck are you from? And I would say, well, I would say, I'm not from here, but I got here as quick as I could. And they just loved that. They was like, that's so funny. They said, really, is Nigeria somewhere near Houston? And I said, no, it's not near Houston. It's in Africa. And they said, whatever. And it was one of those places where people embraced me. I was intrigued with the terrain in West Texas, because if you've ever been to West Texas, it's extremely flat. There are no trees. Yeah. And you have this windstorms that just blows everything away. And they say in West Texas that it's so flat that you can watch your dog run away for days. I mean, it just you can see your dog just going because it's a flat place, and it was a remarkable experience. We made some remarkable friends, lifelong friends. We still go back every year, by the way, to hang out with our friends in West Texas. And,
I understand why. I'm a native Texan.
Okay, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'm from Houston, but 100%. There's something as crazy as the rest of the country believes Texas to be and Texans to be. It is, if you've been there, lived there, from there, it is just this, I don't want to call it magical, but in some ways it's this great place.
It is.
There's a spirit. There's a spirit that's there.
There's a spirit. They love people. They embrace folks, and it's very interesting because the politics there. It's a significant fervor. It's also a very, very Christian, very religious place, and it's a very complex place as well. So we lived there, and then we moved to Oklahoma, and so I spent a good portion of my first couple of years in the United States in the South of America.
Wow.
I'm curious to know, in your 40 years here in the States, how did you find other ethnic groups, especially those of color? How did you find the relationship and friendships that you built? And what does your diversity circle look like, your diversity circle of friends? I'm interested in that.
That's an interesting question, because I think that some African Americans find me mysterious, intriguing, unique, but then what I've done is I've sought to meet them halfway. I've gone way beyond to try to make them comfortable with me, to share with them my story, and to ask them to share with me theirs, and then to find commonalities, the things that we have in common. It could be our kids, it could be our interest, it could be our passion for books and reading. It could be so many things. Our love for jazz, contemporary jazz, and so what I've done is that I've tried systematically to knock down those psychological walls, essentially, that we build. And I think that generally, I think I've been able to break through with many. And there were still folks that I thought they viewed me as suspicious. They viewed me as sort of coming from another place, and not understanding the struggles that African Americans have faced. And, I grew up in this country. I mean, when you show up at 17 and you spend 40 years here, you've grown up in this place. And so I've come to appreciate and to understand and to relate and to experience the struggles that African Americans face in this country. It is real to me as anything else. And for the longest time, Pastor Sheila, I just thought that was part of the American dynamic, that the racism and the suspicion was just what we signed up for, and that we could not really do much about it. And I was taught very clearly before coming to this country that said, if you ever get pulled over, be respectful, even if you know you're in the right. He said, because I want to keep you alive, Benjamin. Mm-hmm. And he told me, he said, engage them very much like you would engage me, your dad. Don't try to create any environment or opportunity for them to take action against you. And I have to tell you, it's difficult when you drive in West County and you're going the speed limit.
Yeah.
And they pull you aside, and I would always pull up, and I had a system in place where I had my car credentials and everything. It wasn't even, and I would always keep it in an envelope on my seat. So I didn't have to stretch to do anything. I would, as soon as I get pulled over, it was on my lap.
Right
and,
there.
And essentially and it had everything in there. I would just sort of hand it over to them, and they'll go check it out, and then come back and ask me why I was speeding. And in many instances, it was just trying to get to the next meeting or trying to go pick up my kids or something. And I would just tell them what the situation was. And some of them gave me warnings, some of them gave me tickets, even though I wasn't really speeding, and because I knew what the game was. but the reality was, I learned very quickly that this was a very different place. But I would also say at the same time, I met cops along the way that pulled me over and would engage me in conversation. They would ask where I was going, and I would say, well, I'm going back to work at Webster. And they said, what do you do at Webster? I said, well, I'm the dean of the business school at Webster. I said, well, what is your area? So I'm an economist. And we would have really interesting conversations. And so you experience both sides of the game.
Yes,
and it was interesting.
That's a very good point, because Brigida and I often say that you cannot put everybody in the same basket. I mean, they're just human beings that live and learn differently. And when you see a blue uniform, it's always been a respectful moment for me, and I pray as always will be, but I understand there are others who cannot say that. And one of the things the author says is that we dehumanize each other sometimes, even within our own racial groups, or crossing lines, and how destructive that is. And I'd like to know, how many treasures and how many wonderful skills and how many people have we lost because we spent time dividing people and pushing them into categories, as opposed to bringing them together and building something very mighty in this country? And I would imagine on an international and a national perspective, you know something about that.
It's we've had many missed opportunities. And as I have traveled around the world, I have found that the countries that are growing today and defining the odds are the countries that have found a way to embrace others, that have really opened themselves up to others coming from different places. Something that America has done pretty well over the years. Something that I feel, you know, we still can do in the future. And I think that the lesson is this. The lesson is about, you know, being vulnerable and being open and allowing people to formulate whatever opinion that they have, but knowing that you have time to try to win them back, to bring them to you. And today, when I left St. Louis, it was a very emotional departure for me because you know, this community has been really good to our family, and my 3 daughters grew up there, and we found a place that embraced us, even though we didn't go to high school there, and we found a place that allowed us to. I mean, and I always tell the story, Sheila, where I met people when I got to St. Louis, and they asked me what school did I go to, and I thought they were talking university. And I would tell them that I'm a proud Oklahoma student. I would tell them that I went to OU and I got my degree there, and I had a chance to watch some great football on Saturdays, and then they had this glaze in their eyes as if I was telling something that was not interesting. And then they would clarify the question, and the question was, I mean, what high school did you go to, Benjamin? And then at that point, I would say, okay, I'm sorry, I attended comprehensive high school in Nigeria. And some of them would look at me and it's like, is that in North County?
Yeah, I haven't heard of that one, so it must be North County.
Yeah, it's like, you know, I mean, was that high school closed down a couple of years ago? I was like, no. It wasn't in North County. It's in Nigeria, and you know they just weren't listening to me. And then but the one that really got me, Sheila, was you know, Benjamin. I can tell from the accent that you probably didn't grow up here.
Oh, really?
They said, well, what? But I said I didn't grow up here, but I got here as quick as I could. And they would sort of laugh, and then they'll come back. So, well, Benjamin, tell me, if I know you didn't go to high school here, but if you had gone to high school here.
Oh my goodness! Choose something.
That one got me because I said, "Oh my gosh, what do you mean?" I said, "Well, you know, just tell me. So give me an idea where you live and what high school you would have attended." And I said, "Okay, this is my opportunity." So I paused and I said, "You know, I think I would have attended Mary Institute Country Day, MICDS."
All right.
Now, this merrymaker wasn't going to go away. And he said, Akande, please give me a break. How did you come up with that? I mean, where is MICDS in your life? And how did you do that? I said, well, you know, I just feel that that's where I would have attended. That is my school. And they said, well, could you elaborate on that? I said, well, you know, I've been paying tuition there for 10 years.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I served on their board of trustees for 6 years. I said, yeah, that's where I would have gone to school. So can you move on to the next question, please?
Oh my goodness.
And the crazy thing is how much stock do people put in that question and in the answers?
Yeah.
You know, I've been asked that question too. And also, where would you have gone, you know, if you could choose? And I think there's a lot of, you know, people look at that to find out about you and how you grew up, or what type of person you are, or what your socioeconomic group is, or whatever else, based on whatever school you say you went to. Yes, you can also play 6 degrees of separation.
It sends a message to me that they're looking for confirmation that they're valuable. So if you come toward where I went to school, that maintains this hierarchy that exists in all of us. And in all racial groups, we do that hierarchy number. So somebody's got to be on the bottom. And so which school would you have liked to have gone to, which means don't reject me. I'm at the top and you want to be up here with me, right?
Yeah, we do. And it's also a way of knowing where you live.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, of course.
It's very simple. They want to know whether you live in town and country, are you in Ladue, are you in Clayton? I mean, they want to know, and it's a way that they can get to that. And my deal, I enjoyed the conversation because I knew exactly what they were doing. And so, a couple of years ago, I was in Chicago for a conference and stayed at the Intercontinental Hotel, and I got in an elevator, and this couple, they got in with me, and we're going up, and I'm trying to be chatty. I say, "How y'all doing?" They say, "Well, we just flew in from Milwaukee, and we're here for a conference." And they said, "Well, where are you from?" I said, "Well, I'm from St. Louis." And they were like, "You from St. Louis? We grew up in St. Louis." And oh my gosh, our folks are back in St. Louis. I said, "This is my moment." And I said, "What high school did you guys go to?"
You beat them to the punch?
They did. And they looked at me. They said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, what high school?" And they said, "We went to Marquette and blah, 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 blah." I said, "Okay." I said, and they said, "How about you?" MICDS.
You don't fit the norm. Wait a minute.
And then they looked at each other just like,
How did that happen?
"Really?"
Oh my goodness. So here's the last question I want you to think about. And Brigitte, I'd like your comments as well. The author talks about why is it, this is a common unfortunate conversation that people have, why is it that people who live in America, meaning almost all the time African Americans, don't do as well and succeed like those who come into the country and make great gains? What is it about African Americans that don't have their own businesses, have not graduated from college, don't send their children to college? What is going on that I can come into this country and in one generation, we can have several doctors, a lawyer, have a beautiful home and a business? And the author talks about, there's lots of reasons, but we can cover them all, or we can just give our own comments today since we're kind of up against about 7 minutes to go. What do you think?
Well, I think America is the land of opportunity, but the opportunity is not readily available.
There you go.
So I've had the distinct privilege as a professor for so many years to have African Americans as mentees, and when given an opportunity, when the possibilities is there, they rise to the challenge, and they do great things, and they achieve their goals and dreams. I just think that we need to be in the opportunity creation business, and to enable people that need it to, there's a saying I always believe that the key is that not to wait for opportunity to knock, but to build the door. And when we build that door and we enable African American young kids and boys and girls to have a chance to get a college degree, they always arise and flourish. And so that's why I'm still in the higher education business, because I want to create those opportunities. I also find those opportunities for white kids that are from economically challenged backgrounds.
Oh yeah.
First generation bound college students. How do we enable their opportunity? We have a program here at Champlain for single mothers that are trying to pursue an education, and we've enabled that opportunity. If you're a single mother and you want to go to college, and from anywhere in the country, we have an opportunity. We have scholarships here at Champlain College that enables you to be able to get to college.
I love it.
That's an area where we've done really good work here. And so I think we need to be in the opportunity creation business, and we all have to carry that weight and do all that we can to enable that.
Thank you. Brigitte, what do you think? And you want to add to that, or are you an amen on that one?
I think I'm an amen, but I think it sort of woke me up to also sort of thinking about, when we think about why do people come to America and come to the United States, exactly as you said, for opportunity. And you are going to work hard for that opportunity. And I think for those that are already here, exactly, we don't always feel those opportunities exist. Even more so in the African American community and in other ethnic communities. But when you feel that they don't exist for you, why do you put forth that effort unless somebody comes to you to say, you can do this, I can help you, we can help you. And you know, as you said, that program for young single mothers, you know, so often sometimes young women, you know, who end up pregnant and end up a single mother sort of think that they're kind of stuck in wherever they are, and yet they will rise to the occasion if given an opportunity. People will do that, you know, and I think we just have to figure out, how do we really dig in and help ourselves? You know, earlier you said at the start of our conversation, Dr. Kendi, even before we were recording, about the diversity here and this being the land of opportunity, and yet it's like we've let it pass us by in this country instead of all of us looking at the wealth of the riches that we have in terms of people. You know,
Yes.
no matter what you look like or where you're from, the individuals here are just, there's so much opportunity and so much possibility, and yet we don't dig into that. We overlook it, and we place people into categories and assume this is where you need to be, as opposed to creating, as you said, opportunity everywhere for everyone to flourish in whatever they want to do.
Right.
You know,
That's right.
if
And you
you
know
want to
what?
go to college, if you want to be a doctor, if
Right.
you want to be a welder, if you want to be, there is a
Absolutely.
place for you. Let us help you.
Absolutely. And that's what I did for my kids. We didn't dictate to them what to pursue. We just told them that they needed to pursue something. And that was the charge, and that you don't get to just not do anything. And they found their passion, and they found their love. And so when I look back, I lost my dad last Thursday.
So
He
sorry.
was 94 years old, and he was the one that enabled myself and my 4 siblings to come to the United States. You know, every one of us, one by one. And he made some significant sacrifices along the way, because you know, he was a preacher of the gospel. He was a Baptist minister, and didn't really have wealth to be able to you know, really provide a lot for us. But one thing that he gave us, he gave us an opportunity for education, and he prayed for courage. And that was something where as I remember his life, and I remember the sacrifice that he made, I now have a duty to pay it forward. You know, and all the good folks in West Texas that enabled me to succeed, and gave of their assets and their time and treasures to enable me to get a great education. I must continue to pay that forward to those that don't have that opportunity. And so, because I'm going to dedicate the rest of my life to doing that, and I hope that by doing that, America will one by one be able to create opportunities for people of color, for economically challenged citizens, because that's my definition of what America is all about.
It's beautiful. We have enjoyed you so much this evening. We can be found on www.mydiversitycircle.com. I am certain that you will see this this session out there on many of the social media networks. And I don't know if you want to give us a closing comment. President Dr. Kendi from St. Louis, we let you go.
Well,
But
I'll give you one more comment there. I think would be
okay.
quite interesting to think about. I want to challenge this next generation of young people as they continue to protest and to stand up for what is right.
Okay.
While they're protesting, while they're showing their fervor, I want them to start thinking about what happens when they get home. I want them to think about the solutions, permanent solutions to solving the problems that we face, because the protest is the beginning. It's not the solution. And so let them think about how they're going to take that fervor and anxiety and to be able to shape our society so that we can make the right turn. And that's that is the challenge that I want to give our next generation, to think of protest. If you think about the protests that happened in Ferguson 6 years ago, and you look at Ferguson today, the transformation that have occurred in Ferguson, that's about protest and result. And I think that they should come hand in hand as we think about the future of America. You know, how do we make this place truly going from good to great to significant? I thank you.
You know, you're going to be invited back. You know that, even though we're
Yes,
about to close it out.
because I think based on your challenge, what you just challenged, I want to say we would love to have you back, because I want to hear you talking about the work with the Center for Community and Social Justice and what's being done in Burlington with some of the police reform and justice that you said it. We need to talk about solutions and not just keep marching.
Yeah, because when the marching is done and we go home, the problem still exists.
What are we doing?
And so how do we fix those problems permanently? That's what we need to focus our lives on.
Well, we will see you again, and thank you so much for this wonderful, precious time with you.
Thank you for having me.
We always say we love you, so we have to say it to you too. We love you.
I love you guys too. I love you all too.
We love you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Blessings. Blessings.
Bye-bye.